And welcome to another edition of the New Sports Outlaws podcast. As always, I am Neil and this is Dan. And as we come to you while we're filming our podcast, the New York Mets are currently leading 3-1 in the top of the third inning in a closeout game against Milwaukee. How are you, Dan?
I'm doing well. We're at the start of October, one of the best sports months out there with baseball playoffs, especially around here with the Mets and the Yankees. We have football. We have basketball coming in the next few weeks. We got the New York Knicks. Yes, yes, yes. So it's an exciting time to talk sports, and let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah. So while we're watching baseball and we're waiting for our Yankees to start on Saturday, let's start with the Yankees. So the Yankees, who would you rather play? And I had that written down today before Baltimore lost. But you would have rather played Kansas City, right? I mean, that's what I would have said.
Yeah, considering what happened in the regular season, we pretty much dominated Kansas City. I think we won like 5-2. I think we were 5-2. Baltimore took the season series from us pretty convincingly. And for some reason, they just couldn't hit the ball at all against Seth Lugo today and their bullpen. But yeah, the Royals, they won, and we see KC Saturday night.
Nimmo just drove it to the track. Yeah, I had some numbers, and this is why I wanted to bring it up because I did some research today. We were 5-8 against Baltimore. Baltimore hit 257 against us with 14 homers. We hit 220 against them with 19 homers. Against Kansas City, we were 5-2, and we hit 240 with 10 homers, and they hit 238 with 5 homers. So not as much power on that Kansas City team as the Baltimore team. And I think that plays into the Yankees' strong suit, especially somebody like Carlos Rodon. And he's a fly ball pitcher. So his chances of pitching better game against an inferior power hitting team like Kansas City is highly escalated as opposed to pitching against Baltimore, who can hit homers against him.
Yeah, I know we talked about this last week. Like with the starting three rotation, the Yankees kind of just came out and said Rodon was their number 2 starter at the stadium. So I know we were kind of debating whether it's Heel or Rodon that should pitch. They obviously chose Rodon. I don't know. I mean, Heel didn't have his greatest last start either. He gave up like 4 home runs, I think, against I forgot whoever they just played, the Pirates, maybe one of the teams.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't. I think you can go back and forth. I'm not. It doesn't. Rodon second starter. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
He had a great year. He had a really good year.
Those last month and a half for Heel was kind of like a roller coaster. He put together 2 starts, and then he'd have 1 or 2 bad starts, and then back and forth. So he was definitely not as consistent in the second half of the season. Still think he has a very good chance to win the Rookie of the Year for the American League. But he was up and down. And we'll talk more about the Yankees as we go on, because by the time we come back, let's hope that they've already finished off their first round.
Yeah,
So
we're probably gonna do it Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, something like that.
Saturday. Well, I know they said this morning or this afternoon when I was listening to Tiki and Evan that Cole could pitch game 1, and game 4 would be on regular rest. So there really is no need for a 4th starter. It's legitimately the 5th day, so it's the normal
So
rest.
it looks like it would be that Thursday, I guess. It's looking like
Yeah.
because Wednesday would be 4 days. Yeah, so it's looking like Thursday
So
would be day 4.
if we film next Wednesday, hopefully we're talking about.
Hopefully, we're up either winning or up 2-1 at least.
Yep, at least up to one. It's going to be a different type of podcast if we have to get on here next Wednesday and
Yeah.
the Yankees are down 1-2, or God forbid get swept. Oh my God. Yeah, let's not even speak
Let's
into
not.
existence.
No,
But
no.
speaking of people who are struggling mightily, and he's struggled all year, I just watched Pete Alonso get out again. He got into a double play the inning before where he fell down. He just grounded out again. He's given every chance to make up for this lackluster season in his contract year, and he just can't do it. He's not the same guy.
That's the amazing part about what the Mets are doing with Alonso struggling, who can earn his contract right now if he, started hitting the baseball. JD Martinez, who has been struggling mightily, and they're still winning. And I know they kind of struggled down the stretch before they got to Atlanta. I think they lost before that very last game of the season. I think they lost like four straight between Atlanta, the Brewers, whatever. But before that last game of the season versus the Brewers, I think they had lost four straight, and then they had that crazy game against Atlanta. Um, and then now all of a sudden looks like they're rolling. And yeah, Alonso, if he wants to earn a contract, he's gonna have to start hitting the baseball. I mean,
Yep.
because otherwise he's gonna be known as a one trick pony, and he might end up staying with the Mets on a discount, depending. So
Yep.
we'll see.
And as I wrote down, the Yankees are facing our old friend here, Frankie Montas. Uh, and I mean, like you said a couple seconds before we even got on, the fact that he's their number two starter. I mean, I don't follow Brewers baseball all that closely, so I don't know. But yeah, he's not good. He wasn't good with us.
I mean, it seems like pitchers who leave us do better, which is fine, and that's fine. I mean, Chapman all of a sudden throws 101 again. Frankie
But
Montas, I was just
Sonny
watching
Gray
him.
had
He
Sonny
gets
Gray had
J.
like 5 good years.
Yeah, JD. I think I saw that one he struck out JD on was a 98-mile-an-hour fastball. He didn't throw 98 versus anybody with us. Whatever. I'm not, but he's still getting lit up against the Mets. But yeah, I don't follow them like you said, and I don't know at an elimination game with their season on the line that Frankie Montas is their guy to go to. So
Yeah, crazy.
I don't know.
So to give you an idea, though, when we're talking about the Yankees, who we want to play in the numbers, the Mets in the regular season were 1-5 against the Brewers with a 207 batting average. So sometimes, I mean, you can look to the numbers to try to make an educated guess, but sometimes, as our fantasy football experience shows us, sometimes your common sense betrays you. So
Well,
there's
all these
that.
home teams are losing.
Yeah.
So I mean, between the Astros getting swept, between the Orioles getting swept, the Padres are the only home team that won with former Yankee great Michael King kind of getting the nice start. And I think what they're 1-4. What so 2-2-4? Yeah, 1-5 right now. I think home teams are. So it's hopefully that doesn't continue with the Yanks coming up on
Yeah.
Saturday.
Let's hope it changes in the next round. All right, so before we get to the meat and potatoes of this week's podcast, let's just do our quick hitters and then we'll get to football. So I wanted to bring up the most pressing topic on the hardwood, the fact that Cam Johnson is up for a rookie extension. That's quite exciting.
Cam Thomas, Cam
Cam
Johnson,
Thomas.
Cam Thomas. Jesus
Sorry,
Christ, why are we even
sorry.
talking about this right
I,
now?
I
Oh
messed up.
my
I
god!
messed up the joke by messing up his name.
Exactly.
Oh,
If you were talking to any other person on the planet, you're like, oh yeah, Cam Johnson, yeah, rookie contract, yeah, because nobody knows who Cam Johnson or Cam Thomas are except for the five net fans with me and Edmund and the rest of them.
okay, so no, I do apologize. That's not the biggest story out of Brooklyn. The biggest story out of Brooklyn is that Benjamin Simmons said that when he is healthy, he is still one hell of a basketball player.
I mean, I know it was media day, so he had to talk, and I get it. And what's he gonna say? That I'm not back to normal. I'm
I
not
suck.
like, yeah, I suck. I've stolen money for the past 3-4 years from Philly.
Guys at LA Fitness shoot better than me.
Um, and every year, I saw this last year too because I follow all the net stuff on X, and they showed him all healthy, and he was shooting threes last year in the gym, and he's doing it this year. I saw a video this morning of him. He's shooting threes in the gym. Oh, it looks great. They got even the trainer Brickley, to kind of say really good things about him. Listen, I hope he's great. I hope he's good. I
At,
hope Slippy doesn't say another word. Just shut up and play.
at this point, you either get nothing, which you're expecting, or you get something and you're happily surprised.
Yeah, the expectations are in the basement, in the
Or
gutter.
would you be happily surprised? Because from what I hear, the Nets want to tank to get the kid from Duke, the 7 foot
From what you hear.
eight kid or whatever the
Yeah,
hell he
no,
is.
I mean, but I think we do need to establish a culture a little bit with Jordy Fernandez, new coach. I don't think he wants to come into a new situation and just. I mean, Sean Marks. I don't know if he can tank. I mean, Sean Marks is
I'm not
his
saying
fifth
they
head
would.
coach.
I'm not saying they'll tank purposely. I'm just gonna say they'll tank because of the surroundings that they're dealing with.
Let's move on.
All right,
Let's go. Let's go.
let's
Let's go to the other team.
let's get to the better of the basketball stories.
Yeah, First time you said
Well,
that in 30 years.
let's first discuss um, Mr. Carl Anthony Towns and his entry to New York. He's a New Jersey boy, and
Sure.
from what I wanted to bring something new, even though we didn't talk about it because it just broke on Friday. I wanted to bring something new to your attention. I don't know if you saw this. There are reports that have come out since the trade finally became official today. That the original trade package from the Knicks was
Interesting.
actually a variation of Randall and Mitchell Robinson, not DiVincenzo. And it wasn't until the Knicks were willing to move off of Robinson and to DiVincenzo that the T Wolves actually considered the trade.
Yeah, heard that too. Obviously Robinson wasn't really pushing the needle for them. I mean, they already have Rudy Gobert. I mean, back there, and Mitchell Robinson is pretty much the same, maybe
Yeah.
person. Really, literally, might be like
Maybe
the
a little
same
little
player.
faster, a little more athletic, but
Maybe a
yeah.
little more athletic. Maybe Gobert is a little better. I don't, whatever, but they're the same player.
Yeah,
And
you're right.
so, like, I mean, to bring him in, I think for Minnesota's point of view is, I mean, especially he got a contract too, right? The Knicks gave him a contract last year, right? Before last year.
Yeah.
Um, so to have already Gobert, who's already their starter, to have Mitchell on the bench, who's unreliable. Obviously, Minnesota didn't want to do that, and the Knicks finally said, "All right, we'll put DiVincenzo into there."
Yeah.
Um, just real quick, I mean, I guess we're going more into it. So, like, I don't see the Knicks winning a championship with Randall at that big position. So I think they had to make a move for Cat. I'm not saying like just for positional purposes. I don't think they would have been big enough. And with Mitch, you don't even know if he was going to be there. Like if he would have been injured, he's not supposed to come back till January now. You never
Yep.
know. I think they had to make the move. And I know you don't like getting rid of DiVincenzo. He is obviously a big part of it, but I think they had to make the move for something eventually.
Yeah, I actually had in my notes that I wanted to mention to you that that cat trade reports are Mitchell's health really is what spurred the Knicks to make this move now. I don't know that they give in. I don't think they wanted to trade DiVincenzo. I think they wanted him to take a little lesser of a role and for McBride to play a little bit more and for Cam Payne to play a little bit, who they brought in. But I do believe that, and from what I read this today, people inside the NBA believe that Mitchell's non-availability until almost December, January, or February, it was what pushed this and said, "All right, then we'll give up DiVincenzo." I mean, if I'm thinking about it, what's easier to get? Is it easier to get a big body, or is it easier to get a wing shooter at the deadline? I would say a wing shooter is probably easier to get.
I would also think that with Mikal Bridges coming on, he's going to be like your, I guess, your shooting guard. I guess I'm trying to think. You know, Josh Hart's probably going to be closing games. I think still with OG and Mikal, and with Mikal and Deuce McBride, and like you said, campaign. DiVincenzo really wasn't going to have a like a role. I mean, he would have had a role definitely. He's a knockdown shooter, best shooter on the team, but 15 minutes a game maybe because Bridges is going to play 82 games.
Yeah,
Josh Hart's always playing. So like unless like injuries happen, like I guess they did last year. Like I saw when DiVincenzo played a lot and he closed out a lot of games. I think he sort of became more expendable once Bridges became a Nick.
yeah, yep. I mean, like I said, I think that if I don't think their depth is a problem like some have said out there. I do believe
Um,
that they might be looking for a depth piece at the trade deadline. But as much as I like DiVincenzo, and he's the reason why I wouldn't have made the trade because I'm not a big Randall fan. I probably would make the trade put push come to shove because Randall couldn't play the five, and they were even considering putting him at the five with Mitchell being hurt. We would have been very undersized. At least Cat can actually play the five until Mitchell gets back. If they don't trade Mitchell, who's
I hear
still in
he's on the
rumors.
block too.
Yep,
So
yep.
yeah, and
The
OG, we never know
Lakers.
with OG either. OG's been injured a decent amount of time too, and he's a big body that they may put out as a four. So I think you definitely need some bulk eventually on the front line eventually as the year goes on. But
Real
we'll see.
quick, real quick with OG. I think there's possibilities he could play the 2 all the way to the 4, depending on what that
Oh,
lineup is.
yeah,
Because
with Bridges,
yeah,
OG, Hart, they can
yep,
kind of
he could
be
play the 2, he could play the 3, he could play the
interchangeable.
4. Interchangeable, and he can play defense on all of those. Also, about Mitchell before we finish up the Knicks and basketball real quick. I saw a couple reports that there were several teams that have already reached out to the Knicks about trade talk. One of them is the Pelicans with Trey Murphy, I believe, and the other one was the Lakers, but I didn't see what the Lakers were offering. But they were also one of the teams that have
Trey
touched base.
Murphy's a knockdown shooter. I don't know. I guess we'd have to give him some of those first round picks that you guys still have somehow.
Yeah.
Eventually, we can always trade them. Still have these first round
We're
picks.
not going to talk much hockey. I just want to mention that hockey
Yeah.
starts next week, and I will definitely be covering some Ranger hockey. Uh,
There you go. That'll be your segment.
Yeah, that'll be a lot, and it'll be like WFAN was like nobody cares about hockey, Boomer.
There you go. Maybe I'll get the recording and I'll play it when we when we do these
I'll get
podcasts.
30 seconds to a minute and be like, all right, let's wrap it up. Let's
I'll
go.
go to the bathroom and come back.
Okay, so let's move on to what I said was the meat and potatoes of this
Yeah,
podcast. We're
football.
going to talk football, although it seems like it's over for my team. We'll start with the Giants since I am a Giant fan. Let me say this: they're in these games. And say what you will. They held Washington, who looks like a juggernaut now, to all those field goals.
Yeah.
It looks more and more impressive that they held Jaden Daniels to all these field goals when Jaden Daniels is literally running it down everybody else's throat. And Daniel Jones didn't look bad. I mean, no turnovers and about 500 yards over 2 games, if I'm thinking correctly. So, what are your thoughts on the Giants?
They should have won the Dallas game. I think they should have won that game. I think I said this a couple weeks ago, but they're a team that doesn't have much room for error. So when you have stuff like this wasn't their fault, but the penalties and that very first drive that mistakenly went against Daniel Bellinger for that face mask, that was actually the Cowboy guy that grabbed Bellinger's face mask. It was on that Dowdle touchdown.
Yes,
And you
Bellinger.
have a couple drops like Wandell Robinson, even though he had a great game, he had that drop. I think
Neighbors, too.
Neighbors had a drop too, right?
Yep.
And when you have that stuff happen and you don't have much room for error, Daniel Jones had a great game on paper. Not great. He had a good game on paper. He went 20. I think I had it written down. 29 for 40 for 281. That's pretty good. And then he had that interception at the end, but that really doesn't count.
Yeah.
But they should have won that game. The Cowboys are not a good team. They're not. They are disgusting. Their defense sucks. Their offense is overrated. They had that one play to CeeDee Lamb for 55 yards, and that was it. And they should have won. And Brandon Aubrey, the best kicker in the league, tried to give him a chance. It ruined all our spreads for who picked the Cowboys last week. We should have covered the spread on that. But they're in these games, like you said. And Jaden Daniels, he still looks really good, and they seem to be the favorite now. All of a sudden, now that Philadelphia's kind of seems to be falling apart a little bit again. But the Giants are in these games. I think they have Seattle this week. Yes,
Yes.
Seattle.
Sorry. Yes.
Yeah. I know they were 3-0 Seattle, but I don't think they're that impressive.
Well, here's your biggest issue, and this was my next note anyway. Neighbors looks special, but if he's
Uh,
out with a concussion this week, because Dayball said he's still in the early stages of the concussion protocol today, it came out. If he doesn't play, they're cooked.
No, on offense they're in trouble because it's not like last year where they had Barkley, at least.
Yeah.
Now we have, I think Singletary's even banged up, I believe, a little bit. But then you have the offense doesn't look too strong.
Yep. The Mets have at least something cooking. The 1 out, man on second. Starlin Marte just stole second. They overturned a out call on the field. Just to keep you updated on what's going on in the Met game while we podcast here. And I thought it was funny, so I wanted to bring it up. We both listen to a lot of WFAN, and Tommy Lugauer has this shtick where he's saying, and I'm not talking about positive Tommy. I guess that doesn't transfer over to football. But unless Tommy DeVito gets in, then he'll be positive Tommy. Anyway, he says Dayball is coaching to lose. And I bring that question to you because although they're in every one of these games, and I can make a case they could have won the Washington game if they had a kicker, they should have won the Dallas game. If they lose and he is kept, this losing benefits him. There's a couple of good quarterbacks coming out in this draft. So
that's why I think he needs to stay. That's not really giving him a fair shake. If all right, he's not allowed to, he's an offensive guy who just came from Josh Allen, and he's not allowed to draft his own quarterback.
yeah,
He tried. I know they tried in the offseason, the whole thing when you saw in Hard Knocks where he really loved Jaden Daniels. That was that whole thing. And they had him in and they did the whole play thing on the whiteboard. You got to give him a chance at a quarterback.
as his own quarterback. Yep.
And I think they're all for that. What he was saying for with that 1 4th down where it was like 4th and goal at like the 8 or 9 yard line, and he chose to kick a field goal. And even though they went for 4th down, I think like 4 or 5 times in the game, and they went like 3 for 4 or 4 for 5 or whatever it was. I think it was part of the game. They were in the game until that last possession, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden we trust Daniel Jones to make the right play. All of a sudden we trust Daniel Jones to make. I mean, obviously, what you throw to Neighbors, that's the best play you're going to have. But all of a sudden now we want to go for it on 4th down because Daniel Jones is the best chance we have. I think he coached really well. Actually, he took his field goal. He went for 4th a bunch of times. He took his field goals. He kept his team in the game to the very last possession. And it just didn't happen. Neighbors had a concussion on that last play. That's what happens.
My fantasy team hopes Neighbors is available for this Sunday. Just saying. Talking about teams that lost at least because we just talked about the Giants lost to Dallas. The Jets look like they're in disarray. This is a totally different podcast from last week when we were like, all the Jets look like they're arriving. Look what's going on here, and then they have a little rain and a tough Denver defense, and they look like garbage.
I remember when we were doing the picks, and I said that this was a bad matchup for Denver because of the rookie quarterback and the defense. That's always pretty solid.
The weather helped them,
but obviously they made Aaron Rodgers and that offense look disgusting, terrible.
yeah.
And just with the NFL, even other games this year, like it was like how the Jets destroyed the Patriots and they won the game. I forget the Cleveland Browns. Who was there? Do you remember who their first win was by any chance?
The Patriots?
No, the Jets. They beat the Patriots, and then week 2. Do you remember by any chance? Was it the Browns?
Was it the Browns?
Whatever. They've looked better since that San Francisco game.
Yeah.
That San Francisco game in week 1 where they got destroyed pretty much. Aaron Rodgers was like, we said, all right, he's coming back soon enough. Just give him some time. Week 2, he looked better. Week 3, he looked really good against the Patriots. I mean, and then week 4, it looked like they didn't want to play in the rain. Between the penalties, between Breece Hall had like 5 yards. I think the whole game. I think he had like 10 carries for like 5 yards. And it just looked like with the penalties, and then there was that whole thing in the media with Saleh and Rodgers being in complete disagreement over that cadence thing where we should either with the language. And that's a game, especially with this week coming up. They got a big week coming up with Sam I Am Darnold against the Jets. It's a big week for them, and they might be a must-win.
I am going to save the Sam Darnold talk because that is part of my NFL headlines. But I will give you 3 rumored headlines that I thought of with the Jets. Things that are not fully confirmed, but you can speculate here. So Rodgers hates Saleh and regrets letting him stay on as coach. Garrett Wilson is upset with Hackett and Rodgers, and Devontae Adams is on the way. So there's 3 rumored headlines for your New York Football Jets.
Yeah, Garrett Wilson. All of a sudden, this Garrett Wilson stuff came out of nowhere. It seemed like last year in that preseason game, and this year he was talking all about Rodgers. They were talking together, but then you see some conversations about them on the side. Maybe not talk. And if Devontae Adams comes in, which I actually think they're going to get him just because of Aaron Rodgers. Like I don't think they should get him. I don't think that would be good for them. Considering Aaron Rodgers has, I think Devontae's only in that 1 year deal, right? He's only on the.
He's no, I mean he's signed for the next 2 years, but the cap hit is so high that unless you are somebody who wants him for another 2 or 3 years, you're probably cutting him at the end of the year or restructuring his deal.
Okay, yeah. That just lessens the targets for Garrett Wilson.
Yeah.
Um, and that wouldn't be a good thing for him, considering Garrett Wilson has been used to 1,000-yard seasons with Zach Wilson. So you would think with Aaron Rodgers that you would think it would go up. Yeah, I think Rodgers and Salah just kind of put up with each other, or at least Rodgers just puts up with Salah, and Salah's like, "Please save my job, Rodgers."
Yeah.
That kind of
Aaron's
thing.
like, go fix the defense and get away from me.
I yeah, he's like Hackett learned early. He learned to just stay away. You should learn to stay away and let me do me. So
Yeah,
I agree.
exactly. So real quick before we move on to just generic NFL headlines, where I think Devontae Adams should go is I mean, I don't want to see him as a Giant fan. I know you don't want to see it as a Dallas fan. Washington makes the
Washington.
most sense to me. They have cap space. They could find a way to keep him long term with Daniels getting the rookie contract. Daniels is the most accurate rookie passer over the first 4 games of any rookie season. They have no second wide receiver to talk of, and their tight end is not established. They could really use somebody like Devontae Adams on the other side of Terry McLaurin. They would be
The,
scary.
they just got rid of Jahan Dotson in the in training camp. He went to Philly. Yeah, that would be something that if I was Devontae Adams, I would choose to go to. I think they said that they would consider giving him up for a second-round pick,
And
and maybe some.
wouldn't it make Vegas happier if they had to get rid of him and send him to
I
the
mean, and the
NFC?
whole thing is now that he has his injury, so he's not even playing this week. I don't think. So I would think that it would just be better for the Raiders, who are probably going to be rebuilding, and we're
Yeah.
going to have a new quarterback after this year, to just cut bait, get a second-round pick for him. That'd be great. Get a second-round pick for him or third round, and then send him off.
FYI, Frankie Montas out of the game for and I'm 3 2/3, 60 pitches. The Mets have a man on second
That's
with
good
2
for
outs.
the Brewers. Yeah,
Yep.
good for the Brewers.
Well, the Brewers, all hands on deck for the Brewers. You lose, season's over. All right, transitioning back to the NFL. And one of the headlines I have is Mahomes loses another weapon. Rumors they are in the market for a wide receiver. I mean, unless they're going to keep dusting off Juju Smith-Schuster to go on the other side of Xavier Worthy, it's legitimately a shell of his former self, Travis Kelce, and Xavier Worthy with Juju, and that's the Mahomes weapons right now. So, and Kareem
Do
Hunt.
they no
Kareem Hunt?
longer? I guess it kind of answered my question, right? They no longer have Valdez Scantling.
I don't think so. I
I
haven't
think I
seen him
would
on the
have heard of
field.
him. I probably would have heard of him. Obviously, yeah, but I think they're gonna need one. Doesn't have to necessarily be a big splash guy. I know the whole thing with the rumor now that the Dolphins are struggling was Tyreek Hill again, but I don't think that's happening. But
No,
yeah, no,
too
they
much,
need somebody
too much
else.
money.
Did they give a time frame on Rasheed Rice or?
No,
I know
I
this.
think he said he's out for the year. I think that was a total knee
Oh,
blow.
they already said. Oh,
I
all
thought
right.
I could have swore they were saying that because they were also talking about maybe not the
It
biggest
wasn't an
name, but like
ACL though, right?
I
Was it?
don't remember if it
What?
was ACL or MCL. It might have been one of the two. But the name I heard with the Chiefs was maybe like Amari Cooper because his cap hit is not that big. If the Browns realize they're totally out of it, or Deontay Johnson from Carolina, who when you give him a decent quarterback who can throw, he looks like a decent wide receiver.
Yeah, Andy Dalton's making him look pretty good over the first
Yeah,
last couple weeks.
not Bryce Young.
Yeah, no, they don't. They need somebody else. They'll make a trade, I'm sure. When I think week 8 is your trade deadline, so we still got a few weeks, and still find somebody for him. Patrick Mahomes doesn't need Superman out there. He'll make the average receiver look really good.
Yeah, he'll throw the ball to the flat to Hunt and P Ryan, and he'll throw it. He'll throw it to Xavier Worthy every once in a while. Xavier Worthy will have game lines like 2 catches for 67 yards and a TD. So that'll probably be what we're looking at from the Chiefs. My next headline is Sam Darnold revenge game. We mentioned it before when we were talking about the Jets in London. Can the Jets stop their former quarterback and let him see ghosts?
They're gonna have to. Now I know they with the Packers they kind of dominated early, then they just kind of hung on a little bit. Jordan Love almost made that comeback against them. Uh, but this year has been really unpredictable with all the stuff.
Yeah.
Just when you think a team is doing really good, all of a sudden they get shellacked. Really, like I mean, we'll go into their headlines in a second, but they're going to need to. I think it's one of those games that they need to win. I believe they usually after the London games they have a bye, right? Normally,
Yeah.
I think it's normally
So
how
they
it
can
works.
opt.
So then
Yeah.
yeah, and then they'll probably have a bye for week 6, and then you don't want to go into the bye at 2-3. Um, and then with the division, I mean, I know Buffalo just lost their first one, so, but I think it's one of them they have to make a statement, and I think they will actually. I think they'll come out, they'll make a statement, and I actually think we'll get to our picks, but I think they'll beat the Vikings. I think they'll give the Vikings their first loss.
Yep. Yeah, we're gonna do our picks. I had one more headline, and then we'll close this up for this week. I have to say, Boomer Esiason said it. I think it was this morning or yesterday. But are the Ravens the best team in the AFC? I mean, they abused the Buffalo Bills. They almost beat the Chiefs, and it was week 1. I don't know if anybody can stop Henry.
It seems like they found their formula for offense, like on how they want to use Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, and Zay Flowers out there, just kind of like that triple threat of speed and power, and like they got to choose one of them, and Lamar Jackson gets to choose. Like it's almost like he gets to choose who gets everything, and they see that their defense is always going to be good, but their offense, they seem like that Derrick Henry got definitely rolling on that very first play. I think it was an 87-yard run for a touchdown. And they seem to be rolling a little bit. They had the good game against Buffalo. I wouldn't say you could. I know maybe eventually we'll put them as the best team in football. I don't know you can say that yet. I still think we still have the Minnesota Vikings. You have to put in there. Just because they're 4-0 or whatever. But I wouldn't be surprised if they're right up there, top team in the league, top team in the AFC by the end of the year.
Yep, agreed. You got anything else, sir?
No, just real quick. I mean, with the NFL stuff, just quick things that I was like more surprises. Joe Flacco coming off the scrap heap again on the Indianapolis Colts and beating the Pittsburgh Steelers, the undefeated, great defense Pittsburgh Steelers that you would think that had no chance to lose to the Colts with Anthony Richardson, who was struggling before that. He gets hurt. All of a sudden, Flacco comes in and just saves the day again
Yep.
for another team. The Eagles falling apart really quick. They were down 24-0 in a snap to the Bucks, and that was over.
Baby, let's go.
The Texans almost lost to the Jags. I mean, I know they still won, but at home the Texans looked terrible. But they got their win versus the Jags. Jags are 0-4. They paid Trevor Lawrence. I don't know what they're.
They did look better last game, but not what anybody expected.
Yeah. And yeah, that was about it. Basically, a lot of surprises between them. We talked about Denver and the Jets already. But yeah, kind of the preseason for football is kind of over now. They say September is the preseason. We're in October now. Hopefully, we see some teams separate from the rest, and we have our best teams, and then we have our bad teams, and we'll see where we go from there.
Yep. Okay, so we're gonna wrap this podcast up. We're also gonna film a little something for as a reel, and then we'll do our picks on Friday. And just thank you for watching. If you stayed this whole time, we appreciate it. Comment and tell us what you liked, what you didn't like, and what you don't agree with. Dan, close it up for us.
Definitely keep on keeping on. Keep watching, comment, like, subscribe, YouTube, X, Instagram. We're getting some new followers every little episode, a couple new everyone, so that's great to hear. And we're going to come out. We have a lot more basketball coming up, basketball, football, hopefully a lot more New York baseball coming up. So next couple of podcasts, so keep watching. All right, until next time, I'm Danny. This is Neil, signing off.
Let's go Yankees.